And that's why I'm trying to comply with them and getting everything done that I can get done for them.
Okay, I appreciate your situation. Excuse me. So as I understand it, what you've built and how your site looks is not the same as what the final plan was that was approved, that you were supposed to build from. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So as I understand it from what Ms. Brown is saying, is that you have two choices. One, and from her perspective, one is that you can either fix your site so that it looks like what was approved, or you can submit an amended, a new plan that shows what you've done and have it go through the process so that it becomes approved, that it goes through the approval process, and that the borough is in agreement that this new version is okay, and then that plan can be filed as your final plan, and that's what you have.
We are choosing the latter.
You are choosing the latter, okay. So as I'm also understanding that Ms. Brown is agreeable to extend your temporary occupancy permit as long as you make that, if you file the appropriate application to amend your final plan before July 15th. Is that correct? With the fees, because it has to go through the whole review to make sure that what you've done is acceptable by our ordinances.
Okay. Well, Mr. Marshall is in the process of that, but unfortunately he had a prior engagement tonight and couldn't make this meeting.
So you are in agreement with this process?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions from council regarding this?
Yes. Notwithstanding the options which have been posed, I guess I just want to think out loud that I have a concern with process here that we have, as of May 25th, a 3-page single-space letter with 14 items that are differences between the as-built and the record plan. And I say I'm concerned about process because we're now talking about submission of an amended plan to essentially take what is currently on its face in violation of the approved record plan and make it right. That we can certainly do. My concern is for the precedent that sets when there are so many things I see in this 3-page letter which are deviations from what was approved here originally. And just taking the first one, as an example, the driveway opening onto South Lincoln Avenue is presently 35 feet wide. The approved plan shows a 25-foot wide width. The driveway from the parking area to the concrete drive apron is 10 feet wider as well. How was it that they were that big a difference?
There was an existing curb depression that we utilized. Rather than hurt the integrity of the street and rip everything out, Gilmore okayed it. And I did not get it in writing, but when the engineer inspector come over, he didn't really see a problem with it. And they told me that they have the authority to make minor changes. So I didn't question them, I didn't do anything about it, and we just proceeded. And Gilmore was there when we did the sidewalk, we poured all the concrete, that inspector was there for a day and a half watching everything that was done. And it was supposedly okay. Then when the firms changed, that's how these other items popped up.
Okay, well, I know you're using the phrase popped up, but the record plan is a record plan by which all the engineers, all the inspectors should proceed with the project. And I understand what you're talking about in the field with an engineer looking at something and saying, well, there might be what we call de minimis, a very small difference that we can ignore and allow to proceed. And if that were the only one, I guess I wouldn't be as concerned, although 10 feet is pretty significant. Let me ask you that, well, let me go back. Who was the Gilmore person on that with whom you spoke and said it was okay?
Mike was there prior. Then there was another fellow there whom I forget his name. But they looked at it as a safety issue. You have a lot of traffic in town. It makes it safer access in and out, and that's just how they saw it. And I don't do this every day, so I'm not real experienced with the do's and the don'ts. I just looked at the realistic end of it, and, you know, I just thought it wouldn't be a big deal. And everybody else said, oh, no, it would be okay, so we did it.
All right, let me ask you about number 2. The proposed edge of stone at the southeast corner of the property closest to the intersection of Sterling and South Lincoln is presently located further into the site than shown on the approved plan and is bordered by Belgian block curb. The Belgian block curb is not shown on the as-built plan, but is present on the site, which I take to mean Belgian block was not approved. So who said it was okay to use Belgian block?
When we were cleaning up the parking lot there, because it was all stone, it was about 80%, we reduced it to 60. And I have some employees, and if they park on Sterling Street, here again, you can park on both sides. If you want, I'll wipe it out and I'll make everybody park on Sterling Street. School buses come down that street, can't make a turn. People turn down that street. During construction, we had people jump a curb, hit their oil pan, and spew oil all over the roadway, and they thought that I did it. And I said, well, it will be a lot safer, and it was just a field change that occurred. And again, I know the engineer drew a plan, and he just drew it. We never lived it. We didn't know what the reality of it was until we started to realistically look at it, and we said, well, you know, it would be better if we just parked here. And the impervious was up in the 80s, and we reduced it a lot.
Okay, my question, though, was who approved it?
I guess no one.
Well, you know, it seems like there are a lot of items that are on all of these lists and all of these letters that need to be resolved and discussed. And I'm not sure that...
I'm not going to belabor this.
Yeah, I was going to say we need to cut it short and to the point where the plan, obviously the plan needs to be redone to show us what it is that you've done and what you'd like to have accepted.
Well, that's why we're doing an as-built. And we're
Well,
trying to
and
file...
your as-built needs to reflect what is actually on your site, which it seems like
Right.
there are some other things
That's
here.
what it should be, and I don't
Yeah.
know why the engineer didn't do it, because I paid him to do an
Well,
as-built.
that's-
And he said he'd talk to the engineer and find out what they wanted on the as-built, because he specified to me he does a lot of as-builts. And on this letter, it said he didn't label the shrubbery, he didn't say what kind of grass seed, and he told me, on as-builts, he never does that. He does an as-built. So I told him he has to work it out and give them a satisfactory as-built, because his as-built, we want to submit as our final approved plan.
Exactly.
And I told him to call the engineering firm and work it out and find out exactly, you know, you have to do it the way they want it.
Right. Okay. Joanne.
As-built or not, this is now going to become the record plan. So
Right.
things that might appear normally on an as-built, your engineer said, well, we don't normally do this. But this is really going back to being the record plan, just like when you first, am I correct, Mary Ellen? Absolutely.
Right, if a final amended plan is submitted, then it's going to show a little bit more than an as-built would.
Okay, well, he said he had spoken with you and you told him what you wanted, so that's what he gave you.
That's
And I
true.
told him to call you back and resolve it.
Right. I think you're probably, and we can talk about this, I guess, when the plans come in, but, you know, as far as the rain garden, significant things like landscaping that are appropriate for the rain garden must be shown on the as-built plan. It just can't show a legend of some sort of tree or shrub on there. We need to know that what was planned for that rain garden that's going to be your stormwater management, that kind of landscaping was actually put in. So that's where I think you're talking about more detail than he's used to seeing.
Okay, because
Right.
we put in more landscaping than it was on the plan to dress it up. But, you know, okay, I'm not familiar with, like I say, I don't do this every day, so I didn't know how important it was that you follow it to the letter.
Right. And another issue that should be brought to Borough Council's attention, and it is in the letter, is that there are several things on the property, on the SEPTA property, that were shown originally to be on the record plan on the site, that are now actually on the SEPTA property. The dumpster, the fence, trees, you know, and they're listed in here. So I think that that should be addressed as well.
I have
The difference.
The letter
Okay.
from SEPTA allowing all of that.
Okay, and also the borough
It's a new one. Okay.
should be comfortable with whether those items should be on the site that serve the site, or it's acceptable to the borough that they're on the SEPTA property instead.
Say that again?